Pythagorean theorem was discovered, not invented, but discovered by a man named Pythagoras. Right? Mathematicians, we don't get real crazy sometimes with our names of things. They're pretty much straightforward. The Pythagorean theorem applies to right triangles. The Pythagorean theorem applies to right triangles. Pythagorean theorem applies to right triangles. It must, a right triangle must have one 90-degree angle. A triangle, 3 sides, and one 90-degree angle. Everybody picture a right triangle in their mind. In a triangle, so there are 3 sides. The 2 sides that make the 90-degree angle, the 2 sides that make or form the 90-degree angle are called legs. The 2 sides that form the 90-degree angle are called legs. They're called the legs. The longest side which is opposite the 90-degree angle, the longest side which is opposite the 90-degree angle is called the hypotenuse. 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 All right, let's draw some visuals. If I was going to have you draw a right triangle, the most common right triangle would look like this. That's probably the one that everyone would draw. And I'm going to do this to my right triangle. Can anyone tell me why I do that to my right triangle? Why do I do that, Caden? To show that it's the 90-degree angle. Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, be ready to be amazed. We're going to identify the legs are the two sides that make the 90-degree angle. The legs, right here in this triangle, the legs. Legs of a triangle. Legs of a right triangle. Legs right there. Legs. Those are the legs. They make an L. This one right here is the hypotenuse. We are identifying the legs and the hypotenuse of a right triangle. I could have a right triangle that looked like this. Here are my legs. And here's my hypotenuse. I could have a right triangle that looks like this. Legs and a hypotenuse. We are identifying the parts of a right triangle. Do you guys agree? Perfect. So let's get into the real stuff. Are you ready?
No, this was the real stuff.
This is just identifying. The Pythagorean Theorem. Pythagorean. 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 Theorem. Theorem. The Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. In words, this means the sum of the squares of the legs. The sum of the squares of the legs. The sum of the squares of the legs equals the square of the hypotenuse. The sum of the squares of the legs equals the sum of the hypotenuse. Of the square of the hypotenuse, sorry. The sum of the squares of the legs equals the square of the hypotenuse. The sum of the squares of the legs equals the square of the hypotenuse. Think about it. The sum of the squares of the legs equals the square of the hypotenuse. What does sum mean? What does sum mean, Gagan? So we're going to be adding the sum. What are we going to be adding? The sum of the squares of the legs. The sum of the squares of the legs equals the square of the hypotenuse. So look at this. Read this again to yourself. The sum of the squares of the legs equals the square of the hypotenuse. And look at this algebraic representation. Because this algebraic representation and this word representation mean the same thing. Can you tell me in this algebraic equation what each part means? Can you tell me what A represents, what B represents, and what C represents? Looking at the algebra, looking at the words. Ava, what does it mean?
The A and the B represent the legs, and C represents the...
Perfect. A is a leg, and B is a leg, and C is the hypotenuse. The Pythagorean Theorem says the sum of the squares of the legs equals the square of the hypotenuse. The Pythagorean Theorem is only used for right triangles. The Pythagorean Theorem is only used for right triangles. The sum of the squares of the legs equals the square of the hypotenuse. Let's practice. Do these values make a right triangle? Do these values make a right triangle? We're going to test it. If I gave you a triangle side that was 3 inches, a triangle side that was 4 inches, and a triangle side that was 5 inches, would that triangle that is created be a right triangle? Well, let's see. Let's try it out. We're going to use the Pythagorean Theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And we're going to substitute. Instead of a, what number can I put? 3, because it's one of the legs. Squared. Always use parentheses when substituting, because if you don't, sometimes it's wrong. Plus, what's your b value? 4. And your c value is 5. Now there's another way you could write this and be correct. It does not have to say 3 squared plus 4 squared equals 5 squared. There's another way you could write it and still be correct. Anyone know the other way you could write it and still be correct? What has to be in the same spot no matter what? Alyssa, what has to be in the same spot?
The 5.
The 5 has to be the C. Why?
Because it's the greatest number, which is the hypotenuse.
Yeah, the longest side is the hypotenuse. And so 5 has to be your C value. But could you flip-flop and write it 4 squared plus 3 squared equals 5 squared?
Yeah.
What property tells you that you can flip-flop it?
The commutative property.
Good, Alyssa, the commutative property. The commutative property says that the order of adding doesn't matter. What is 4 squared? Everybody.
16.
There you go. Plus, what is 3 squared?
9.
Equals, what is 5 squared?
5.
What is 16 plus 9?
25.
Ladies and gentlemen, does 25 equal 25?
Yes.
So do these values make a right triangle?
Yes.
The answer is yes. The answer is not 25 equals 25. The answer is yes. Here are 3 more values. 5.6, 5 and 6 tenths, 9 and 3 tenths, 9.3 and 9. I want to know, do those 3 values make a right triangle? We're going to substitute again. We're going to use the Pythagorean Theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. What should I put in for a? What should go in place of a? Maya?
5.6 squared.
5.6 squared. Plus, what should go in for B, Gregory? 9 squared. And C? Alyssa?
9.3 squared.
Good. I tried to trick you guys by not putting them in order. You didn't fall for it. Is there another way we can write this and still get the correct answer?
Yes.
Yes. Who can tell me the other additional way of writing it? What's the another way? What's the additional way? How else could I write this and still get the right answer? Come on, guys. You can do it. You can do it. Anna, how else could you write it?
Flip the A and B.
You could flip the A and B. It could be 9 squared plus 5.6 squared equals 9.3 squared. I like to always go in order. Baby number, middle number, big number, right? Like the Goldilocks and the 3 bears. You have to have the largest number for C. What is 5.6 squared? 31.36 plus 9 squared is 81 equals 9.3 squared is 86.49. 31.36 plus 81 is 112.36. Does that equal 86.49? So is this a right triangle? No. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Pythagorean theorem.